What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Henrik 86, Liam Nedrick, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. I'll raise the mic on whoever the hell is in Discord, and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Just a little smidge of what I'm planning.
Do what, sorry?
Master B, I made a little sample, you could say, of a song I'm working on about Simon and Dan.
Sample of a song you're working on. Is that what this... Okay, do I just click play on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Reference frames have been ruined. You and your reference frames have been ruined. Your reference frames have been ruined. Your reference frame. Your reference frame. Your reference frame. Been ruined. Been ruined. You and your reference frames have been ruined, and there was a little video. Frames have been ruined. Frames have been ruined. You and your reference frames have been ruined, and there was a little video of a tractor pulling a
Okay, very good.
I love to stutter.
It's bouncy, if you catch my drift.
Right. Actually trimmed out a section of yesterday's show, although it was like round and round in circles for basically an hour straight. I spent all morning hacking it down, and it still ended up being over half an hour long. Round and round and round in circles. But fine by me. The point was being reiterated over and over again. They claim Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Why doesn't the helicopter drift away? Because Earth isn't turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Earth isn't turning. They claim it turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, but that would mean helicopters would drift away and drones would drift away, and they don't.
Well, they don't seem to understand what conservation of momentum is anyway. So that's why they actually claim it.
There's no momentum to
No,
be
he
conserved.
just wasn't getting it.
Well, there's no momentum to be conserved if you think about it. So if you take, for example, a drone, you push up the drone stick, it takes off to a foot off the ground, and then you let go. Well, there's no momentum being conserved, it's just hovering. Yeah, it's putting energy in to be hovering. But ultimately speaking, what's it conserving? It's not travelling anywhere, it's just hovering.
Exactly my point. And for it to conserve, you have to say that something's stopping somewhere for it to conserve.
But the effect you're seeing, again, has nothing to do with any displacement or introduction of energy. Because the projectile, let's say you're looking at a car, I like this example, you're watching a car on a roundabout. So you're spinning around in a playground on a roundabout. But as you come round the last 90 degrees of the turn, there's a road that comes into your view. And the cars travelling along the road are just travelling up and down it as they would on a road. Now, from your vantage point, spinning on the roundabout, it looks like the road's coming towards you. And all the cars on it. And then you spin around away from it. And then you come back around and it looks like it's coming towards you again. Now, what the cars are doing is totally irrelevant. Doesn't matter if they're driving at 100 miles an hour along the road, because them and the road and everything on it is all coming towards you because you're spinning. In other words, the momentum of the car is irrelevant because the effect you're actually detailing in Coriolis is the effect of you spinning, seeing something not actually happening, merely the effect of you spinning towards something. And that effect is Coriolis effect. You spinning underneath. So to have Coriolis, you spin underneath. Simple as that. Now they spend their entire time trying to debunk the claim that we spin underneath stuff, when that's actually their assertion. So we end up with a position where it seems like we've got to make them actually adhere to their own claim, and I'm not going to do it anymore. Same with, I'm going to bring this up with QE when he's next on the scene. He's off for his computer's getting repaired and stuff. But when he next comes back, he was debating with a guy, and he's getting the guy to say, yeah, I accept that the sky is a vacuum in my rhetoric. So he's asking him to define space, and the guy's like, no, it's not a vacuum. So he's spending half the time getting the guy to actually concede to his own fundy faith. It's like, well, from this point on, now we've got it through to the audience that you've got to tie down your opponent to what they're actually claiming. That doesn't mean that you have to adhere to their claim for the majority of the time you're debating with them. If they say, okay, sky's, no, it's not a vacuum. Okay, well then, welcome to Flat Earth. And if they want to carry on decrying their own fundy faith, I'm not going to be tolerating that from here on forward. I'm not going to spend 90% of my time saying, no, you think Earth spins underneath. It's like, okay, you say there's no drift. No drift. No proof of Earth spin then. Earth spinning debunked. Not, no, you're supposed to say Earth turns... No, fuck that. You just say...
Just cut it off at the roots.
It just, if they
spent an hour after that on Discord. Same thing. Spent an hour going over the Coriolis. They just don't get it, or they don't understand it, or they don't want to.
And I don't care. It's like, I know how Coriolis works. I know what Earth claim works as, and it's a claim that Earth turns underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. So we understand it. It's very simple. So when Ed's trying to confuse the situation by asking me, well, what momentum's it's got? It's like, none. Well, how can it have drift? It's like, well, if I'm on a roundabout underneath a helicopter, same as my road example, if the helicopter's just over in the distance, as I come around on the roundabout, it looks like the helicopter's coming towards me. But then as I go around the last 90 degrees of the turn, it disappears completely from view. And then I go round again and it looks like it's coming towards me. So it absolutely matters not what the helicopter's doing. It could be going up and up and up and up and up. It doesn't matter. As I spin towards it, it looks like it comes towards me. So it's not actually anything to do with any momentum the helicopter's got, and everything to do with me turning underneath to give it the effect. So I'm on a roundabout. It's looking like an aerobatics display in the distance is coming towards me. Well, no, you're just turning on a roundabout. Yeah, the whole sky isn't coming towards you. You're turning underneath it. And they claim Earth turns underneath stuff that's not attached, like footballs and bullets. And as soon as we point out, well, that would mean we're turning underneath stuff then. You're saying we're turning underneath, so we're turning underneath. No, we're not. We don't turn underneath anything. That's absurd. And they go, no, we wouldn't expect to. And then we have to spend half an hour convincing them of their own bloody argument. And the second they say, no, no drift, no, they're turning together. Well, no, you've got a claim of drift, so you're debunking your own claim. So at this point, no, I'm not going to spend half an hour explaining to you how your claim on a globe Earth that spins works. As soon as you say no drift, well, you're supposed to have drift. That's the thing that's supposed to prove it spins. There's no other claim to be proof of Earth spin. Just 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth rotates underneath. And that would mean Earth's rotating underneath. So we'd see helicopters fly away from us, and we'd see drones drift away from us, and we don't.
Yeah, all you should do today, is if they do bring it up, just say, thanks to Simon and Dan, your reference frames have been ruined. Don't have to say anything further.
That's what I've put in the title and tags of the video. He gets one mention in the video. It's half an hour long or 34 minutes or something like that long. He gets one mention, but he's going to be the title. He's the poster child for this. There's suddenly been a break in the argument. It was a convoluted cluster screw of nonsense going back and forth. Now, it's a consistent verbal attack on their position, regardless of whether or not they relinquish it or hold it. If you want to die by the sword of they're spinning together, there's no drift, well, then there's no drift. There's supposed to be 15 degrees an hour, so you're debunking the claim that Earth's turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, because that's what's supposed to happen. It's come from the priesthood. So you want to say it's turning together with a begging the question fallacy. You're debunking drift. So die by that sword if you want to. But like Ed yesterday, he doesn't want to commit to either position. He just wants to ask me questions about something I don't claim. Great, because every time he asks me, I'll point out that their claim is Earth's turning underneath helicopters. And if we're turning underneath helicopters, as they hover, we'd see them drift away from us, because we're turning underneath them. like the aerobatics display would come towards you on a roundabout. If Earth's that roundabout, then you're going to start spinning underneath things that are left that reference frame. And helicopters, drones, bullets, balls, aeroplanes, hot air balloons, they're all leaving that claim to be spinning reference frame, so it's supposed to continue turning underneath them. That's the claim, 15 degrees an hour of it. We've all got it nice and clear now, thanks to Bob Nodell. I can actually thank him for a change and say everyone's now clear that they claim there's 15 degrees an hour drift. They even try and put it on us like it's our claim. But it is actually a globe claim that Earth turns underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. Now, everyone on both sides is very well aware of this 15 degrees an hour. Doesn't have the Earth turning underneath bit strapped on by the globe side, but I'm more than happy to reiterate that for my audience. They're claiming Earth turns underneath helicopters and aeroplanes at 15 degrees an hour, ladies and gentlemen. Is Earth turning underneath drones and you watching them seem to drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator? No. So let's just focus on that. When they start telling you how they're spinning together, well, that's not them drifting apart at 15 degrees an hour, is it? If they're turning together with a begging the question fallacy that they spin and Earth and atmosphere spin together, that's not them drifting apart. And that's what they actually claim. So we're going to hold them to it. Earth's supposed to spin under helicopters. Why isn't it? Well, you don't understand what drift is. Yeah, I do. 15 degrees an hour of it drifting away because I'm turning underneath it is the claim you're supposed to have to prove spinning Earth. If it's not drifting away at 15 degrees an hour, Earth's not spinning.
Only on their pseudo model, not in reality.
But Nathan, you don't see a drift.
So Earth's not spinning underneath at 15 degrees an hour as it's claimed to then. As soon as they say that from now on, Neil, well, there's not supposed to be a drift. Yeah, there is. Globe Earth has 15 degrees an hour of it. We're all welly aware. We're all well aware of this 15 degrees an hour of drift that's claimed. The bit that's not clear, because it's left in the shadows by the globe side, is what that means. It means Earth is claimed to turn under helicopters and drones and hot air balloons and aeroplanes and bullets and footballs. That's what it means. And we do not experience this. So the second they relinquish it, we wouldn't expect drift. Yeah, you would. 15 degrees an hour of it. Everyone's well aware of it now. Thanks, Netflix. We're all aware that Earth's supposed to turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour now. Why the hell isn't it? That's because it's not spinning.
Well, that's why I've always liked the Coriolis argument, even though it was convoluted by their double speak. And they have to do it that way because what came out yesterday with Ed was that he was arguing against his own worldview. And it was so embarrassing that if a normie baller came on the show and heard Ed speak, he would say, wait a minute, we do believe the Earth is turning. Why is he arguing against it?
The best is when he yells at you that you're stupid. What are you, stupid, Nathan?
Yeah, he's asking me why in the globe model they wouldn't have drift. I'm saying you would.
Nonsense. I remember early on in this thing, they said, well, that's powered flight. And I remember you saying, well, what about a glider or a drone, a hot air balloon? See, no matter what they say, the Earth has to be turning. That is their motto. But in reality, you can't ever prove that because the Earth is not turning. Or you'd see drift.
If Earth, that's it. Their claim that they're supposed to prove Earth.
Right.
Yeah, their claim that's supposed to prove it's spinning debunks itself. Because if Earth's turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, then Earth's turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour and we'd notice. And we don't. So it's just that simple. Coriolis argument's actually really simple. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They don't understand. They don't understand reference frames. They don't understand angular momentum. They don't understand Coriolis. They just don't simply understand nothing.
Well, they better learn quick
maybe
sharp. Because everyone that attempts to argue this from now on is going to wind up debunking their own claim. Because we're going to very quickly point out that we're supposed to have things drifting away from us at 15 degrees an hour. That's the claim. And the moment they say, no, they don't drift apart at 15 degrees an hour, for whatever reason, they're going against their rhetoric. They're debunking Earth's turning, and we're going to point it out immediately. No, I assume Earth travels with velcroed air that moves with it, even though we've got different directions of surface winds at various different levels at altitudes, moving in different directions. Yeah, I'm going to assume it's all travelling as one, and that there's no drift at 15 degrees an hour. All right, well, let's ignore the fact that you're begging the question and just focus on the fact that your high priesthood claims Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, and you're debunking that. So who cares about your begging the question bit? Oh, well, I assume it all travels together, because that's normally what gets argued about. I'm just going to say, no, you need drift. We're all well aware you're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour of drift as Earth turns underneath as a non-inertial spinning reference frame. And the fact that we have drift at 15 degrees an hour, as is claimed, under bullets and balls, is translatable to anything not attached. So it's supposed to drift underneath a helicopter, drone, hot air balloon. We're supposed to be turning underneath those things. So the thing that hovers doesn't have to have 1,000 miles an hour countering it so we don't see drift. Again, their nonsense assertion that flies in the face of the 15 degrees an hour we're supposed to see and don't. If Earth was turning, stuff would drift away at whatever rate we're supposed to be turning, whatever speed. 1,000 miles an hour on the equator is the turn speed. Yep, well, that means that when you leave that spinning reference frame, like a ball leaving a roundabout, it would deviate. That is, from your position, it would seem to fly away from you at 1,000 miles an hour. Even though it's just hovering and you're not pressing anything on the sticks of the drone, it's just hovering in midair. But because Earth's claimed to turn underneath it at 15 degrees an hour, that would mean it flies away from you at 1,000 miles an hour. That's drift. Doesn't happen. End of argument. We don't have Earth turning underneath. This claim of 15 degrees an hour drift does not happen. Earth is not spinning.
Indeed. They argue against everything that they stand for, like when they say Earth is an open system, but it's closed. Now, what the heck does that mean? That's so nonsensical. It is such contradiction. It violates the law of non-contradiction. And this is what they have to do when nothing of their model matches actual reality. So Earth is turning. Yeah. Well, it's not turning. Well, Earth is closed, but, well, it's open because we sent Voyager out. Sorry, you lose on both counts.
Yeah, well, they'll ask me. They'll ask me why Earth doesn't have. They'll ask me why Earth doesn't have 15 degrees an hour of drift in the model. You're like, it does. It doesn't have it in reality. You're asking me to justify why the model that claims 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath doesn't have drift in a model that claims there is. It's like, no, you're getting this all arse about face globers. In reality, Earth doesn't turn underneath anything because Earth isn't turning. You claim in your model Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour. We don't experience that. Debunking the claim that is supposed to be proving we spin. If we spin 15 degrees of drift, no 15 degrees an hour of drift, that would be helicopters not drifting away from you and flight times not being shortened, and your drone not vanishing at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. Therefore, no spin, because that's bit that's supposed to happen and doesn't. Drift. No 15 degrees an hour. Thanks, Simon Dan. Bob didn't prove that Earth turns underneath, because if it did, we'd see drift, and the reference frames have been ruined. No drift.
Yeah, we'd see it everywhere and everything.
Well, let me add another one of their silliness. Gravity's a force. Gravity's not a force. You don't have a position here, ballers.
Yeah, it gets worse,
It's an
doesn't it?
emergent force.
Yeah, gravity's a force, gravity's not a force. And then you point that out to them and they say, well, gravity's not a force. But you can think of it as a force.
Ah, okay. Well, if I want to think of unicorns are real, I can do that too.
I had a guy tell me that just picture that there's little slivers for Voyager and rockets to leave the Earth system, the atmosphere, whatever.
Little slivers?
Yeah, like it finds slivers so it can leave. I said, are you really serious? That's what you're claiming right now.
Well, not that gives a whole new meaning about a sliver lining in the clouds.
Is Voyager, when you describe it as a sliver, would a completely unbonded gas particle that's moving at high speed be any smaller or larger than Voyager?
I don't know. I didn't claim it.
I'm pretty certain that Voyager's complete lies, and the reason is because it's claimed to be travelling through a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. It's travelled out there because Earth is claimed to be an open system, and as it travelled, it managed to go past gas that simply moves at a high velocity in whatever direction, all vectors, until it collides with something, a container. Well, in their rhetoric, Voyager can leave, but the gas just has a little party at the Kármán line and just says, yeah, we'll chill here. So Voyager can keep going, but the gas doesn't. It's completely absurd. It's open for Voyager, but somehow closed for gas. So we can have pressure. Well, what's it pressing on? Well, it's pressing on a vacuum. In violation of natural law. It's absolutely absurd. Nature abhors a vacuum. The gas would fill it. If the sky was a vacuum, therefore Voyager's completely fake.
It's pressing on a vacuum. Very interesting, huh? We can the official description, even from the most rudimentary source, is gas pressure is gases pressing against the walls of a container. But now they're saying it's pressing against a vacuum.
But then remember, all vacuums have container walls.
Then it's no longer a vacuum, is it?
It's still a vacuum. You just can't get a natural vacuum there.
No, it's over. That's why it never made sense to me as a kid.
Yeah, nature abhors a vacuum.
No, ball game over for these guys. They come here, they get embarrassed because they have to argue against their own position. And this is what is so hilarious is when they do argue, it's against their own position.
Yeah, it's like yesterday with friction guy. He just comes and says friction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Arwen in the after show, when you left, Nathan, he started talking about friction.
Well, he was pretending to be a baller, though.
Yeah, but at least he was explaining it. The other guy just said friction.
Yeah, but Arwen wants to make $6 million.
I'm starting to believe him with that.
Well, if they believe both sides of the argument, they just might pay him one day.
Listen, I think Coriolis should be number one again. The way you have it, right down to the dot, I think that should be the number one argument.
I don't think he's biting on
Well,
that
it's my
one.
favorite.
Supersede the
It's
Black
my favorite
Swan.
at the moment.
Well, I remember
I
if you
think
go
everyone-
back to the shows in the 700s and 800s, I always said I loved it. Everybody said, it takes too much to explain. I go, no, it's simple. If it's turning, but it's not. How difficult is it?
Yeah, it's like so obvious
Yeah,
to me. Like we'd be seeing Coriolis everywhere. We'd see it drift everywhere.
Yeah, but I think each housekeeping question has its own place to come in it, I would say, because they're also so deadly.
Well, the top three are definitely the ones we have, and in any order, you can take them down. And especially if you are a fan of the show, you hear it on a daily basis, so you get to see how they try to weasel in something to counter it. But every time they try to weasel in something, they counter their own claim.
Yeah, they bury themselves more.
Yeah, because
isn't this your
arguments
position?
get stronger.
Aren't you telling us the Earth is turning? Well, yeah, except when you put it that way, I don't like it.
And it must say it is fun when you try and mix and match when they're talking about Earth curve and then you're all of a sudden going to Coriolis and then you're going to gas pressure. It's like they're bouncing from one topic to another and every single one of them still demolishes them from the start.
It's called scattergunning. You just have to jump around subjects to avoid the awkward bit when it arrives. So I ask Ed, why is an Earth turning underneath the helicopter? The first 5 minutes is constant Fundy muting that question. The second 5 minutes is him listening, leaving pauses, and then asking me a question about what drift is. The third 5 minutes is another 5 minutes of Fundy muting and ignoring the question. But eventually we get to the point where he says, well, it's just like the geometric horizon that you say is apparent. It's like, why are we now jumping to a different claim? Obfuscation, red herring, because he's actually heard it, hasn't addressed it. It's been pointed out that he's listened to it on multiple occasions. So what's he got to do? Well, change the subject. Because you can't say,
I
well,
thought the penny
But I have
dropped,
to-
though.
you can't just admit.
I
well,
have to
Earth's-
say, when I was
You can't admit that there's no drift
When
because
I
Earth's
was in-
not turning underneath as it's claimed to be. That's the concession he can never give. So round and round you go indefinitely because he cannot make that concession. Why doesn't Earth turn under the helicopter and have us appear to see it drift away? Well, because Earth isn't turning under helicopters. That's the bottom line. So he asks me, why does the globe model justify no drift? Well, it doesn't justify no drift. It has 15 degrees an hour of it. Earth's supposed to turn under the helicopter like it turned underneath Neil deGrasse Tyson's ball and under the sniper's bullet. But it doesn't. Because it would shorten
I
flight
thought
times
that,
and
yeah.
you'd have helicopters go up and they'd land in a different country. They'd drift away, you'd watch them drift away from your position while they're just hovering. And it doesn't happen. So they're screwed. They can't justify
Yeah.
that because they're supposed to have it and they don't. And any sort of concession will be like Simon Dan's concession. Devastating. You and your reference frames have been ruined. We don't have any. You claim there's 2 of them and stuff's drifting away from it 15 degrees an hour as you turn underneath it. So your reference frames are ruined. Kudos. I'm done. Go ahead,
If
Flatsworth.
you
Yeah,
had,
it's like
go on, Flatsworth.
it's like me trying to jump in the air. It's like me trying to jump in the air. Obviously, the Earth is supposed to move 460 meters underneath a second. I'm obviously going to hit into a tree or a building or a car or something on my way down.
Jump up and down. Earth's supposed to turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour. That would be you jump up and down, and whatever the 8,000 miles an hour translates into would be how much it translates into underneath your jump when you leave that reference frame that's spinning. It's claimed Earth's a roundabout, and stuff that leaves the roundabout drifts away at 15 degrees an hour according to that claim that Earth spins at 1,000 miles an hour plus on the equator. Well, if that's the case, stuff drifts away at us. From us at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator. And it doesn't. The Earth's not spinning.
If you had, I'm sorry, Nathan. If you had a trivia game with some of these sayings, and you said, "Who said this? A baller or a flat earther?" You and your reference frames are ruined. Everyone would say, "A flat earther said that."
Yeah, we're all big fans of Simon Dan now. People are saying, "Oh, you're obsessed with him, you got in for him," and blah blah blah. In my comments, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a big fan of Simon Dan. He's on our side, debunking Earth turn. Kudos. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dan. You and your reference frames are ruined. That's so quotable. Thanks, Dan."
I did think the penny dropped for Ed a couple of times, but
Dan
I
is
guess I was
ace.
wrong.
That's what's the word? There was conflict in his mind because he knows he has to push the Earth is turning, but he has to deny it at the same time.
Yeah, that's why I thought the penny had dropped a couple of times, but he just fought against it.
So the penny
But
didn't
to
drop.
be honest, when I was in Discord, and he was talking, I couldn't hear nothing. So I don't know how the people actually listen in Discord sometimes if they're closing the gateway.
It's fundy muting.
Why do you think I left Discord?
Yeah, because they basically, when they don't want to address something, if they can talk long enough and loud enough through any claim that's being made, they can claim they didn't hear it, move the subject on, and who's going to complain? Well, nobody, because they've fundy muted every word of it. Well, I've got my ways around that. But they don't realise it. They think, oh, right, as soon as he's in the middle of telling me something that's devastating, I'll start talking and that'll mean no one will hear it. No, that's not how it works. But then I see the light flashing while I'm talking, and I know damn well that they would be, if I hadn't got it set up in such a way that they can't interrupt me, that they'd be talking straight through every single example I'm making. So as soon as the gate reopens, what happens? Well, they are heard talking through me, and of course they're not going to respond to any word I've said, because they've attempted to obfuscate it by talking through it. And you know what they'll say at the end of it? You've muted me. That's what they'll say when they've attempted to talk through every word of a devastating claim that they cannot respond to. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, excuse me, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by Neil, 10th Man. We've got Flatsoid, Chocolate Saying, I think that's Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good. Hello, hello.
I'm doing well.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Hello, that's a nice start to the show. Excellent stuff. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not even from a ruined reference frames.
Thank you, Simon and Dan.
That's too soon.
I've only got Simon Dan to thank for the lack of geometric physical sphere-edge horizon, although I'm sure he has covered that subject at some stage. No, Simon Dan's more to do with the next question. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Thank you, Simon and Dan.
Right.
Yeah, there's a claim that there's 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath stuff that's not attached, like footballs and bullets and such like. However, when we push this question on a funder who actually claims it, they'll tell us all about how there isn't drift at 15 degrees an hour, the very thing that's supposed to claim the proof of an Earth that's turning. So we've got this situation where they argue against this 15 degrees an hour deviation. Thanks to Netflix, most people are, on a general level, aware that we're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath. And yet someone like Simon Dan comes along from the globe side, the only people making this claim with reference frames, and says, quote, "You and your reference frames are ruined." So thanks, Simon Dan.
Ooh. They seem to be arguing against themselves a lot lately.
Yeah, it's great.
The model leaves them no choice.
Chocolate, what model? They still haven't presented a model.
Yeah, that too.
It's a stage progression for the people who watch this show, at least. They understand now, we're at the stage that people appreciate that you've got to get your opponent to actually commit to a position. What are you actually claiming? Well, now we're at the point where they are so used to us pinning them down on what they're actually claiming that they're even refusing to claim it, right? Or doing the opposite like Simon Dan and debunking their own claim, telling us how there is no drift when there's supposed to be 15 degrees an hour of it. Things like that.
There was one time on 24/7 where the guy, we asked him to produce the model, and he was like, how am I going to produce a bunch of concepts?
What? He actually admitted to what the model is, a reification of these concepts. Yeah, you can't just take a load of graphs that you say prove the Earth's a sphere, or use Google Earth when it's got no drop. You know, you've got no proof, no model, no nothing. You've got very little on the heliocentric side. You think you've got everything, but it's just a load of empty boxes with nothing in them. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope. It's over there. I can't determine the angular. Or wait, I can't.
But
you guys.
But Owen, if the sun is here by me, why is it there by you?
I don't know. I can't really determine where it is or what size it is anyway. So, but I see some.
So is there more than one now?
I don't know if there is one. I just know I'm seeing something.
I love the childlike wonderment in Arwen's voice when he doesn't know something. I don't know. He sounds like my daughter when I ask her, what shoes do you want to wear? I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's so exciting.
Something to add on that. I can stare into the sun. I know there's a certain amount of glare, but I actually can look past that in the morning time and the evening time without having to block the glare with my hands. Even with using my hands, I can't look at the sun around around 12:30, 1 o'clock in the day. At around midday, I can't look at the sun. But yet I can look at it in the morning and in the evening time with just my eyes, and no need to block it with the glare. So technically, I'm in Ireland, right? So if you are thinking about the rotation of a globe out to where Ireland is, which is 52 degrees north, which is pretty north, then that would mean that my, let's say, closeness to the sun would have changed by a certain amount. But you know what I mean? How much would it have changed in those between 9:30 in the morning and 12:30 in the day?
You got to give it time to start getting charged up, right?
Talking about an intangible object. I know your point, Brian, but talking about intangible objects here.
Yeah, well, I suppose I can't. It doesn't give it a distance, but it doesn't give it a distance, but it definitely gives it a difference during the day, a visual difference.
Thank you for stating the bleeding obvious.
All right.
Moving on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Ooh, I have a great question as a rebuttal. What's the speed of a gravitational wave?
I like your other question better.
Is it a wave?
That's a good question, but can you ask your regular Einsteinian mechanics field equation based question, please?
Well, it is based on the Einstein gravity based. It's a follow-up. I called my hangout yesterday, and remember, what's the speed of a gravitational wave? Because it is kind of claimed that happened, that they measured this thing, and now, of course, they conjured it in the device, but just as a concept, the way they showed it when they talk about it is like it is a wave that travels a distance over time and then hits at a point at a certain time. So I'm wondering, okay, if that's really the case, what's the speed of the gravitational wave? I don't get any answers. I haven't had anyone answer.
It kind of sounds like you're explaining light.
No, it's a ripple in the bending of space-time.
Say, no,
which
that's not what
apparently displaces within the 3D realm, according to them.
What's the speed of a bending concept?
I don't know, but I'm sure they can calculate it.
I'm sure they can.
Yeah, you just.
But I haven't had any
ripple?
calculus response yet, and no
How do you
numerical
ripple
value.
math?
I want the numerical value, damn it!
First, show me time bending, then I'll accept any reification of the calculation of the time of a geodesic in space-time. But till then, you've got to show me time bending, that conceptual medium. Pseudo-Riemannian force space, length, breadth, depth, and time. Einsteinian, no, that's conceptual.
Damn it! I was hoping to actually red herring that.
I'll quickly get my walk clock and bend it for you.
Hold on. Sorry, go on, 10th man.
Well, you just have to break down the words. Ripple of space-time. Now, ripple is a drink. Now, space-time, what is that?
Also an ice cream.
Yeah.
What? No.
Ripple in space-time. Break that down. What's a ripple of time?
No, it's a ripple of space-time bending.
Right. Give me a ripple of time, please.
Look, you can't bend, travel through, ripple, tear, or otherwise a conceptual medium based on time. It's a concept.
We can't.
But it wouldn't be called space.
But two colliding black holes could.
They're conceptual also. Go on,
it wouldn't be called space. It wouldn't be called space if you had something in it to ripple.
Yeah, it's a contradiction in terms, right? What are you going to ripple? The space? the emptiness thereof? Yeah, good point. Right, quick shout out to Dave Rakia Gafford. What is light? God is light. Do I have an agenda? Yes, I do. It's called Rakia Life. Catch the light wave. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Rakia Life. Light is not a wave. The description of a wave function would be the description of a probability distribution of diffracted light, so you can derive frequencies of light from that. But it's merely a convention. Doesn't mean light can be surfed upon. It's not a wave. It's not a physical wave. It's merely a derivative of a probability distribution in mathematics. Not a
Not what
wave.
it says here.
Right. But look, guys, I'm not letting this go so easily. The bending of space-time, right? Well, we know it's a conceptual medium. It's nonsense. But I just can't let it go that they said there's a ripple of it, and then that affected the supposed mechanical thing that they set up. But I'm wondering, how did it do that? Did it do that by changing the spatial density, like causing matter within space to suddenly become less compressed or more compressed? Or did it introduce some kind of energy, or did it rotate the light ether or whatever in order to give that light frequency deviation? They don't really explain that. They just say, no, the ripple comes by, then it changes something, and that proves it's there. But it doesn't even say how it's supposed to influence that thing in order to cause that. They don't say what it is that is actually rippling forth through space.
That's what you said it yourself. You're asking them to ascertain causal relationships in contrived mediums. Right? So, no, you're not going to establish cause. Not in physical reality, Arwin. Before you say, yeah, but I can in the model.
I tried, man.
You did try.
I'm trying.
We'll ask the question again, because Arwin did try so much that I'm going to have to repeat the question just because he's managed to convolute it like a baller would. Shock horror. Thanks, Arwin. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, it's a bit difficult to have a hypothesis for a concept.
I wonder what the peer reviewer said of their so-claimed
Oh,
experiment.
God. Somebody shoot him.
Someone, please.
No, not peer review. Scientific. Let's move on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
None whatsoever. Never, ever.
Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson says a ball moves under the Earth, so that must be scientific.
No, that's not a valid hypothesis with an independent and a dependent variable and a null. No, sorry.
But he kicked the ball.
Okay. Then screw science. If he kicked the ball.
Flat sides, you and your reference frames have been.
Is ball kicking a natural phenomena? Do we ever see animals kicking other animals in the balls in nature?
Oh, in blood top form.
Well, actually,
in the global reality, that's how it works.
In the global what? Reality? There is no globe reality. It's a model.
What model?
Yeah, good point. Well, touche.
A bunch of concepts.
Right, any evidence of talking of concepts, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Oh.
Every time you say that, I just think of a huge explosion.
Think of yummy toffee rebels. Yum, yum, yum.
Earthquakes.
Nothing to do with molten iron core.
Well, people do seem to think so.
That's fine by me. They're just idiots. Not a thing to do with their rhetoric of a sphere Earth.
Well, I had a guy
Elf
saying
could
volcanoes
cause
again.
it.
They have to
Then.
have a radius value first.
But for tectonic
well, Arwin,
plates,
how would
hold
you
on.
explain it?
Hold on. Maybe there's a connection there. Brian, are you saying they need a radius for tectonic activity, which is what they claim is the cause of earthquakes?
No, I mean for a molten iron core, they'd have to have an actual radius value.
Oh, absolutely. At the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. That goes without saying that they're going to beg the question. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure, that would be the yummy, yummy gas pressure we've all got moving in and out of our lungs currently, without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon? For all the fundies that think the sky is a vacuum, that would be a space for the gas to fill.
Has anyone after Billy Blue Balls tried to demonstrate this claim afterwards?
Yes,
Or is it
yes.
still-
A guy called Thunderfoot Clown. He took some solid bonded bouncy balls and poured them into a fish tank and asserted that gas go down, go boom boom, like his solid bonded bouncy balls. Now this guy's claimed to be a PhD. He's actually a complete clown, because that's not gas behaviour. It doesn't have a single downward vector, as asserted with gravity, that there is no scientific evidence for. Gas expands in all directions, all vectors, not down go boom boom like bouncy balls. Yeah, Thunderfoot
Nathan,
clown.
He was trying to get you to visualize it, Nathan.
Visualise gas with all vectors moving at high speed in all directions by pouring gas with a single vector down go boom boom.
Yes.
Oh, he's just a clown then.
Well, maybe he was trying to conceptualize that if the Earth cannot be in a container, then every segment of air should function like its own separate container. And then he thought, oh, wait, balls, balls are usually hollow, filled with air. So if I just imagine everything to be these balls of air stacked on top one another, yeah, they'll go down, go boom, boom.
Hey, see, Thunderfoot, there's someone here to try and mop up your mess. He's not doing a very good job for you, but he's trying.
Not really, it's
But
still
Owen did
ridiculous.
use a
I'm
fish
just
tank.
trying
That could be
to
a container.
follow his train of thought originally. Or maybe he was just really short-sighted and dumb. I don't know, but it could be either.
Well, he's doubled down on it, Arwin, so
But a fish
short-sighted and
tank, isn't that
dumb.
a container?
It's short-sighted and dumb. He thinks gas go down, go boom, boom. He's doubled down on it. He thinks gravity gives
Really?
gas a downward vector.
He's still doubling down on that?
Yeah, he's doubled down on that, yeah.
Oh my god.
That's not going to change. He's just going to move on and try and ignore it. Like Simon Dan, maybe his fans aren't telling him like Simon Dan fans are telling Simon Dan, just ignore it, Dan, just ignore it.
Okay, it's his life.
Yeah, precisely. We're more than happy to use and abuse these guys' name as hostile witnesses. Wonderful. We love a hostile witness. Simon Dan, the flat earther, debunking Earth turn. Thunderfoot Clown debunking the vacuum of space and gravity. Epic. Epic fails. Any evidence of the
like
hour?
to say that.
Go on, Brian.
I'd just like to say, sorry, Nathan, about Blue Marble Science when he did those two tests with demonstrations within them pipes. He actually definitely proved the relative density equilibrium of gases within gases, the thing itself. He proved it, as he showed there was a difference in pressure.
Yeah, he showed a gas pressure differential, or AKA gas pressure gradient. That's correct. When people ask me, well, how can you have a gas pressure gradient in a container? Here you go, hillbilly blue balls. Blue Marble Science. He's got a gas pressure gradient. It's going to eventually fill the availability of volume because there's a hole in his container. That would be his pipe. There's a hole at the top of it. So like a tyre with a slow puncture, eventually the gas will fill the space. It's called entropy. It's proportional to time. Nevertheless, his container he was using to demonstrate gas pressure without a container had a hole in it. And inside it, it had a gradient. Kudos! Gas pressure gradient in a container. Still going to succumb to entropy. It's just proportional to time. The gas will fill the space.
He was pumping in a more dense gas into the bottom of it than what was already in it. There was already the gas of air, which is carbon dioxide, argon, oxygen and nitrogen in it. And he pumped in a more dense gas into it. He created a gas pressure differential, but he also showed that the more dense gas was less likely to rise.
Yeah, they focused more on how long it took for the gas to leave. That you got the time wrong. You said within 2 or 3 hours, and it stood there a lot longer. So they thought they had a victory because of that.
So it's proving that entropy is still absolutely, unequivocally proportional to time. So gas is being described adequately with the second law of thermodynamics when it describes the gas filling the space. But because they've slowed it down and put a tiny little hole in a very big container, they think that that's debunking entropy. Now, the gas will still fill the space. It's natural law. Nevertheless, he's still got a container. In fact, he's got two. He brings the butane in a container and transfers it into a different container and goes, voila, gas pressure without a container. Look into my eyes. Don't look around the eyes. Don't look at the container.
Would you expect him to bring it in his hands with no container?
Yeah, just bring it in a little bubble without any containment. The gas that likes to expand in all directions. No, that's not going to happen. Moving on. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Radius.
Nope.
Come on, no Globers in Discord got a radius? Come on. Say it isn't so.
At best, we've just disproven it. That's it.
Yeah.
Unless
Radius.
someone else wants to come in and tell us how they got their radius as a straw man, that'd be cool.
That was very sensible, Arwen.
Yes, correct, Chocolate. Feel free to come in and debunk your assumed thoughts that we are asserting we should have radius. Come and debunk that. That concludes housekeeping. Epic.
Now what do we do?
I want to bring up a topic and see what you guys have your viewpoints on it. So when they throw the word around science all over the place, I mean, there's so many departments in the universities of social science and life science and actual science of the body and all these. So science departments have the word science. Now, if you say, why do they use that word? Look at the meaning of science. It means knowledge. So when we are saying science, we're talking about the scientific method, particularly here, which is the way you find cause of an effect. So just because someone uses science doesn't mean what we mean. So can we just talk about that and the differences?
Yeah, natural science, physics. That's all encompassing. You can have various aspects of biology covered in that, still covering natural phenomena. That's natural science. Cause and effect reasoning based on phenomena.
So can medicine be science?
Yeah. Scurvy? Well, what's causing that? Well, you can science it. Let's see if we can figure out the cause, vary and manipulate what we assume causes the effect. If it causes the effect, you've established it as the cause. If you validate it, if you don't, you validate the null. Varied it, didn't cause the effect, validated the null. At the end of every single scientific experiment, you've proven something. You've either proven your alternative hypothesis, that would be your assumed cause of the effect, or your null hypothesis, the antithesis of that which you assume caused the effect, instead of if A then B, if A not B. So you vary and manipulate that which you think causes the effect, and it doesn't cause it. You prove your null. So the point of science is to prove things. In the case of scurvy, the lack of vitamin C has been proven scientifically to be the cause of scurvy, validated with science. That would be hypothesis-driven, systematic experimentation to prove the cause of an effect. That's still natural science. The fact that it's to do with a human condition is irrelevant. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon. It occurs in nature. And you can figure the cause out with science. Yep. That's natural science. Physics. The physical. Dealing with the physical.
Yeah, that's
So
why
what
I'm not real fan. That's why I'm not a real fan when they come to observational sciences. Because it's not really observational. It's not sciences.
Observational science is pseudo. Hold on. Observational science is pseudoscience. You're not varying something by watching something just occur. You've got to actually take control of it as a researcher and vary it. So to be an independent variable, you've got to follow 3 criteria. 1, it's got to be your presumed cause of the effect. 2, it's got to be real. No varying and manipulating subconscious thoughts or the pseudo-Ramonian force space. So it's got to be your presumed cause of the effect. It's got to be real, and it's got to be capable of being varied and manipulated by you, the researcher.
Right. So I want to segue from what Flatzoid said. So observational science. So if science means knowledge, they're using it outside of the scientific method where they can ascertain empirically the cause. They're just saying, by this observation, I have some limited knowledge, but it doesn't fall within the criteria of the scientific method.
No. Scientific method is very, very narrow.
So ballers, when you come here, make sure you frame your question on science the proper way. If it's just knowledge from observation versus the narrow empirical method called the scientific method.
All they ever do is take an observation and affirm the consequent with it or beg the question with it. That's all they ever do. And they call that science. Absolutely outrageous. It's been done all over the place. You've just listed a whole detailed list of departments in universities that claim to be science and aren't. It listed off a whole bunch of pseudosciences.
Yes. Yeah, Chocolate, what does Michio Kaku say?
Say again, I'm sorry.
What does Michio Kaku say about scientific method?
Seat of the
That
pants.
nobody he knows in his field uses the scientific method. It's all seat of the pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. Michio Kaku.
Very much. In other words, not science. Guesswork. Now, you can infer, as a Glober defending this, that there's guesses in the method of science. Well, yeah, you guess what you think is going to cause the effect, and then you formulate it into a hypothesis with a null. And the null says, what I think causes the effect won't cause the effect. And one or other will be validated at the end of the method. That's why it's an empirical method. And for that very reason, people love to use the words of science. Oh, well, this is my hypothesis. This is my theory. No, it isn't. They just use the colloquial meaning if you try and hold them to task. Oh, well, I only meant colloquially. I only meant a general idea that I've got about things. That's my theory. Oh, right. Well, why are you talking about it under the banner of science, implying that you've got systematic experimentation to give you a scientific theory, Mr. Scientist with your name tag and white coat? You're implying science, but using colloquial terms that mean nothing. Your theory, your idea about it, who cares? Give us some validated scientific experimentation that empirically validates a cause and an effect, then I'll pay attention. Don't give me epidemiological studies. Bloody pseudoscience. Scaring the crap out of the world with pseudoscience nonsense.
Well, that's why they do it, because they need validity.
They need
Nathan, go to Master B. I got a pick for you.
They need the inference of validity. And when they have none, they hijack science to give it themselves when they don't have it.
Correct.
Michio Kaku. Logic and guesswork. Scientific method? Question mark. Yeah, it doesn't have it. Got plenty of phenomena to study, but are they establishing the cause of the effect by varying that which they assume caused it? Of course they're not. They come up with a little story. Guesswork, leaps of logic, maths. Not science. They call it science, though, all day long.
Well, they claim it's a higher level of science, because we're still in a Stone Age, doing cause and effect.
Who says that? Certainly not people who've used science to save countless lives.
No, just the people we encounter.
Oh,
I was told that a couple of
people,
times.
the people who hijack those words to imply they're just so stories about us being on a spinning ball flying through a sky vacuum are true. So when Michio Kaku tells us all about the empty space which gas would fill, we've got to accept it because he's called science, or he's used a word like theory. No, we don't. It's just an empirical method, very narrow, for establishing cause of effect. They've got plenty of effects to study, they just never give you any science for them. Hijacking it.
Well, that comes in to play with his other quote, which is usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory. We're off by a factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120. That is 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science. Michio Kaku from The Principle.
And he's asked about facing that statement, because a contrast between theory and, what did he say, experiment. Well, it's the wrong way round. You get your theory after your experiment. So phenomena, hypothesis, experiment, if validated, that's the alternative, then you can form a theory. So there's no discrepancy. If you've got a scientific theory, it's based on valid experimentation. So he's asked about face even in that statement.
I think that was part of the convolution where they kind of equivocate the word theory with scientific theory, because they could have chosen to call it something else instead of just calling something established by validated experiment another theory. But I think that's part of the plan and how they wanted to kind of just, confuse it for people.
Well said. Exactly correct. What that translates into, it sounds like there's a discrepancy between scientific theory and scientific experiment. Wow, what a major mess for us scientists. No, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is this is the biggest discrepancy between empirical reality and our just so stories. So when he says there's a big discrepancy between experiment, that's systematic experimentation based on hypothesis, in physics, the physical, that's real, that's reality. So there's a discrepancy between the real experiments and what he says is theory. What he means is my Mystic Meg just so story theory, the colloquial theory, has got a massive disparity between that and physical reality demonstrated in an experiment. My just so stories, aka theories in the colloquial sense, they don't match with reality. Yeah, they don't, because they're just so stories. But you use this word that's got a double meaning. In science, a theory is based on experiment. In his vernacular, in this particular instance, he's using the colloquial term theory, meaning just so story. Mystic Meg theory. Nostradamus theory.
His theory.
Maybe he's attempting to separate the two, because he does say in science first, and then he switches it to, however, in cosmology, that's where we're off by the factor of 1 to 120. So maybe he's kind of subtly trying to distinguish between actual science and the pseudoscience.
Yeah, just giving us a hint.
His statements are contradictory, though, because that statement involves the word experiment. And the previous one which came out after that, it's not previous for him, but it's previous for this show, states that they don't use experiment.
Exactly.
So what
Go to Master B. I got another one.
Carry on, Brian.
What experiment is he actually talking about?
He's not. You're absolutely right, Brian. There's a contradiction in his terms. But as Chocolate is also correct, he's trying to subtly distinguish, saying, well, it's in cosmology. Now, in science, one thing, we've got one set of circumstances, that would be empirical. And then in my cosmology, which is pseudoscience, we've got a completely contrasting, incorrect idea that's off by magnitudes of incorrectness. That's what he's saying. So there is no experiment. You're right, Brian.
I got a slide for you, Master B, Nathan.
It's up. Usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2. Yeah, I've got it up.
But they wouldn't be off by a factor of 2. They wouldn't be off by a factor of anything if they were doing an experiment.
Exactly.
Isn't that it?
Precisely. You either validate your null or you validate your alternative when you perform the experiment. Assuming everything's done correctly, but that's why the method has systematic experimentation, not just one. People constantly doing it over and over and over again, making sure it's done correctly, making sure there's not any holes. Well, if you validated it with systematic experimentation, either you validate the null or you identify the actual cause of the effect. One or other will be proven at the end. So no, there's no being off by a factor. You either prove your cause or you don't.
Exactly, and the ballers completely misunderstand the term systematic experimentation, because what they all do, when I say ballers, I'm including Michio Kaku here, the type of things that these people do is they'll do something that's just a begging the question fallacy, and they'll use mathematics to get back to the very place those mathematics were designed to get back to. And then 100 other people do it, and then they call it systematic experimentation. But all they're doing is making sure they're all begging the question in the same way.
Yep. As long as they're all on the same page, as long as they're all adhering to how it works in the model. As long as nobody mentions that we don't actually live on the model, everyone's cushy. Because they're all working within the same parameters and the same maths and the same reification. As long as we all work in the model, we're all on the same page, right? And they try that here, don't they? Well, what happens in the model? Who cares? We're not on a model. No, but you're supposed to be debunking the model. Yeah, I am. Because it doesn't work in reality. Here's how. Yeah, but you're supposed to work within the parameters of my fundamentalist religious belief, called a model. No, I don't have to do that. We work in reality here. Oh, it's another slide. It's a video.
Make observations, you have a theory, you go make more observations, and it's a very, very tedious process. Wrong. Nobody that I know of in my field uses the so-called scientific method. In our field, it's by the seat of your pants. It's leaps of logic. It's guesswork. It's guesswork. It's guesswork.
Yep. Indeed. Guesswork. That's what your religion's based on, globe believers. Guesswork. Pseudoscience. Just so stories. Nostradamus theories. Mystic Meg. Guesswork. Pathetic.
Nathan, you'll remember for the first 2 years of this, the borders from 2015 to about 2017. I'm not saying this, I don't know how long everyone else was into flat out, but I know you're around since then. All the borders would always say that they tell you something that you can do and say anyone can do this. This is what they'll say, as if they're talking about systematic experimentation. And it was always something that involved working within their model that's designed to get straight back to the very place that it's designed to be in.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, you can do this yourself. You can go out, reify the horizon into a physical sphere edge, and then go to our maths that automatically assumes Earth is a sphere, and you can compare how much our maths that excludes perspective and calls it Earth curve says there's going to be a physical geometric sphere edge blocking the thing that you're looking at. Be it a boat that's gone over that physical edge, or otherwise, you can beg the question with our calculator. You can already assume that Earth's a sphere and compare it to a reification that excludes perspective. Here you go. And there we go. We've done it. We've compared it, and that proves we're on a sphere, because we all assumed it at the beginning of the maths.
Well, look at Ed. He's wanted you to work inside the model for the past 2 days, right? Because in the model, it works.
No, it doesn't. In the case of 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath a helicopter, that would mean Earth turns under a helicopter. It doesn't work. We don't experience that which their model claims, 15 degrees an hour drift. We don't experience us watching helicopters seem to drift away at 15 degrees an hour, or our drone on the equator flying away at 1,000 miles an hour. Because, oh my God, that hovering helicopter has disappeared from view because I've spun away from it, turning underneath on a second reference frame, turning at 15 degrees an hour. Nobody ever experiences that because Earth isn't turning. So it doesn't work within the model. The model claims 15 degrees an hour of drift.
But why would you expect to see drift?
Yeah, that's all they've got now. Reverse the burden of proof and ask me why I'd expect to see their claim we don't see in reality. Why wouldn't you expect to see in the model the drift that's supposed to be there? Yeah, we don't live on a model. We don't see anything drifting away from us at 15 degrees an hour. It's claimed it happens underneath balls and bullets. And yet we would have to experience a helicopter drifting away at 1,000 miles an hour or a drone on the equator because of the Earth turning underneath it. Not because it's got any accelerative forces or any momentum to conserve, because we're turning underneath it. That's the claim. We're supposed to be turning underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. And we're not. That's it. Thanks, Simon Dan, for bringing this all to a head. No drift.
So what maths did Neil deGrasse Tyson do with a field kick if there's no spin?
Neil deGrasse Tyson is asserting that the ball gets kicked, and if you're watching it from the stand, it looks like it curves, because Earth turns underneath the ball. Second reference frame. Drift 15 degrees an hour thereof. That's what he claims. Now, the fact that we don't have it, and we're not watching drones and helicopters and hot air balloons drift away 1,000 miles an hour on the equator as Earth turns underneath them, giving you an apparent deflection, it's just going up in the air. It's a hot air balloon, right? It just rises up. But apparently it's supposed to drift away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator as we turn underneath it in a second reference frame, giving you drift that we're all now well aware of thanks to Netflix. 15 degrees an hour of drift as we turn underneath, right? Well, no, because we don't experience that. We're not drifting away from helicopters that are hovering. Drones aren't flying away from us at vast speeds. Balls that are claimed to deflect because we turn underneath them. It's just nonsense. Because it would shorten flight times that are flying west as Earth turns underneath them for us to experience this Coriolis that's claimed. Now, when we point out that we're not turning underneath Jack, we have idiots from their side, the globe side, who don't understand what Coriolis effect is, tell us that our reference frames are ruined, when we don't have any. The only people claiming reference frames are the globe side, who say Earth turns underneath as a second reference frame.
Just on their model, just to point out that we always hear, and we have heard for 5 years from all these people, that in their model, that objects once picked up, right, let's say you pick up a dense object and you drop it, that it will fall towards the floor at the calculated rate of 9.8 meters per second squared. But that's not correct. Their model currently, since 1915, states that it is the floor that pushes up against that object at 9.8, the calculated rate of 9.8 meters per second squared, not objects being pulled towards it. It's the push up of the floor. That is their model at present.
Yeah, you're describing the bending geodesics in space-time in pseudo-Riemannian force space. That's what you're describing. That's not anything to do with our ground. The soil beneath my feet doesn't fly up towards anything. That's just the reification of Einsteinian mechanics. Pseudo-space isn't real.
I was talking about when Ed was speaking about atmospheric law. I wasn't talking about the Coriolis thing. That's what I meant the other day.
Air-sphere law. Yeah, the law that says air takes the shape of a sphere. Air, sphere, shape, which gas doesn't inherently have, takes the shape of its container. Air-sphere law. Yeah, that's debunked with its own name, isn't it? Like all of these terrible things they use to con us with, the devastating bit of the actual claim is in the title. Air-sphere law, atmospheric, air, sphere-shaped spheric. No, air doesn't take the shape of a sphere.
See, we know the magic trick now. That's what it is.
Technically, we even do have 2 reference frames because we have a rotating sky reference frame. We have the sun, the moon, the sky, that all turns around us, and we are stationary.
You're describing the bloody obvious as opposed to saying it's a claim we utilise to prove we're stationary or prove we're flat. We don't. I'm not utilising that to claim anything. Yeah, you can describe it as the blatantly bloody obvious, but that's not a claim I make. It's the blatantly bloody obvious.
Okay.
Didn't you claim that the sun can shine on the bottom of the clouds on a flat Earth?
Oh, here we go.
We showed that to you, Ed. Showed a demonstration
No.
in a garage.
You didn't show anything. That's a man-made thing.
Chris,
You have to show it in nature.
Chris Berry showed you.
Oh, we do show it. Oh, right. Okay, so if I show you a picture of sunlight under the clouds, that would be proving it then, because that's showing it in nature. You're asking how that occurs.
You have to demonstrate that it works on the flat Earth.
Yeah, so without
Chris
using...
Berry.
And my only capability is to use the sun itself and the clouds themselves. Well, therefore, the demonstration you're asking us to describe, even though burden of proof reversal fallacy, mate, you use this sun under the clouds to claim that Earth is spinning and the sun's moving to a position that puts it under the clouds. It's your claim. Again, just another pathetic burden of proof reversal fallacy. You've had a small-scale demonstration that absolutely unequivocally proves it's capable of happening with perspective. So why are you denying that we've shown you this? And saying that because it's not natural, it's a man-made demonstration, that somehow it's not valid. Well, it's just showing you how it's possible to happen on a bigger scale, with perspective. Simple.
No, that was man-made. You have to show it in nature.
Why does that matter?
And you have to demonstrate it.
Oh, I see. So
you have
all
to
man-made
demonstrate
things
it
can be thrown out
while
then,
the
Ed.
sun is not shining on the top of the clouds.
Yeah, Ed, it does
Did
shine
you hear
underneath.
what I said?
Yeah, so what? So if it shines underneath, that proves a flat Earth then? Because it's showing it in nature then?
No, because it can't shine on the top of the clouds at the same time.
Sorry, you're saying we can't have light on top and bottom of clouds at the same time on a flat plane? Okay, prove it.
No.
That's your claim. You should know the model. You should know the flat Earth model. Prove it. You've just made a claim about the model. You did this to me, Ed. Now you're going to take it in reverse. So, you've just made a claim about the flat Earth model I don't have. Now prove it. Your claim about the model. You should know all about it. You've made a claim about it. Go. Prove it.
If the sun shines on the bottom of the clouds,
Not an
it
if,
cannot
not a
shine on the
conditional
top of the
statement.
clouds
Prove it.
at the same
Not
time.
if. Not a conditional statement.
No, you're
Prove
not.
it.
You're funny muting me.
I'm saying not if. Not a conditional statement. You're going to damn well prove what you've stated about the model that you obviously know all about. You're making a claim about it. So go. Prove what you've just said is true. It can't happen on a flat plane. Prove it.
So what you need to demonstrate is...
No, it's your claim. You're going to demonstrate it. You're not going to give me a conditional statement and you're not going to demand I prove it. Your claim about a model I don't have, now you're going to prove it. Go, like you demanded I did with your globe model yesterday. Go, prove it. Your claim about a model. Go.
You never showed any evidence.
Now you're going to tell me what I'm not doing. You've made a claim. Yesterday you made a claim that I had to prove about your model and you put it on me, and I did. You said, well, why wouldn't we have deviation on a globe model? I said you would, 15 degrees an hour, and then you refused to answer any questions. Now it's exactly the same situation in reverse. You're claiming something shouldn't happen on a globe, on a flat model. Now you've made that claim, so you're going to prove it. Not ask me to prove it or give a conditional statement, which is what you've done. Do it again and I'll kick you out. I'm not going to do this for 2 hours. Prove your claim. Go.
You said your demonstration showed your evidence.
It's your claim about what something shouldn't do. Are you deaf? This is your claim. Like yesterday, I say we would have drift if Earth was spinning. You say, well, you are claiming something about a globe model. So how much drift shouldn't we have on a globe model? And I say you should, 15 degrees an hour. It's claimed Earth turns underneath helicopters. They should drift away from us, Ed. Now, you never addressed that for about a straight hour.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. You, at some stage, said they travel together. That's not 15 degrees an hour drift. So all you did was debunk 15 degrees an hour of drift. So addressing it, you said that there wasn't any drift. Debunking the claim that there is, that's supposed to prove Earth spins. So well done. You addressed it by saying there isn't any drift, like Simon Dan.
No, you debunked yourself by...
It's not my claim! I'm not claiming drift at 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns underneath. There's nothing for me to debunk that's my claim. It's only you who claims Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, and it doesn't, because helicopters and drone would drift away from you, and they don't. Simple. Earth's not spinning.
Right, so let's get back to your video that was supposedly evidence for your claim about the sun.
Who cares? You've got the sun in that inertial reference frame and Earth turning underneath it. Now, based on that claim, you're saying that Earth will turn and the sun will position itself to shine underneath the clouds. Well, that's you with a supposition that Earth is a second spinning reference frame, turning under the sun. And I'm saying, no, it isn't. Simon Dan's brought this to a head. That would mean we turned underneath helicopters at 15 degrees an hour, and we don't. Your only rebuttal was to say, well, it won't drift. Well, that's not drift. You need drift, moron.
So the only way the sun can shine on the bottom of the clouds
is if Earth turns underneath it. And that would mean it turns under helicopters, and it doesn't. You don't seem to be listening to me, Ed. You seem to wanting to take us into the same circle jerk as yesterday. I'm not going to do it. This claim involves Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, and it doesn't.
So on the flat Earth...
No, on the globe Earth, the claim is Earth turns under the sun at 15 degrees an hour. Neil deGrasse Tyson asserts that Coriolis drift as anything that leaves the non-inertial spinning reference frame at 15 degrees an hour to give you drift. That's the claim. So you're talking about lights under clouds. That's a claim that Earth turns at 15 degrees an hour underneath. That would mean we turn underneath helicopters. Same as yesterday. Your only response was to say we won't have drift. The globe claims we will. We should drift away from drones at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator, and we don't. And I'm not going to let it go. Simon Dan's done this for you, fundies. You can blame him. I'm never going to let this go. You claim Earth turns underneath. Anything not attached. It doesn't. Earth isn't spinning.
I like how you're running away from your man-made presentation of the sun.
My man-made presentation? This is your claim about what the sun does as the Earth turns and the clouds have got the light from the sun being in a different position because of the 15 degrees an hour turn of the Earth that you claim causes this. Now, if Earth turns at 15 degrees an hour underneath as a second non-inertial spinning reference frame, then we drift away from helicopters. A helicopter would take off, and it would stay relatively in the same position to that sun you're now using. And Earth would turn underneath it. That's precisely what the globe Earth claims. We turn underneath. That would mean helicopters drift away from you and drones would fly away from you at 1,000 miles an hour, not because they can fly at 1,000 miles an hour, but because the globe Earth claims we turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour. This is your claim. You don't even appreciate that when you're talking about this turn and the sun being under clouds, that's 15 degrees an hour of Earth turning underneath, and it doesn't.
So you want to rant about Coriolis, or
That's what this claim is! Are you so thick? Why am I even asking this question? You globe believers are so stupid, you don't even realise when you're making a Coriolis claim. You complete bonehead. This is Earth turning underneath the sun at 15 degrees an hour. This is Coriolis, you idiot! It just doesn't happen or we drift away from helicopters. And we don't. How many times is it sinking in? Did you not realise this was a Coriolis claim, you idiot? Did you not realise this was Coriolis? Sun moving because we turn underneath, 15 degrees an hour, drift. That's what you're claiming, you idiots.
Did you mute Discord again?
Oh, it's appeal to mute button because he's getting raped. No, mate. What's happening is I'm pointing out that this claim is a Coriolis claim. And like yesterday, if you're going to claim that we're drifting away from the sun at 15 degrees an hour because we're turning underneath it, that's a claim we turn underneath stuff. Now, do we turn underneath a helicopter, Ed? Like you're saying we turn under the sun, and Neil deGrasse Tyson says we turn under a football? Is that what you're saying, Ed? We turn under the sun at 15 degrees an hour to make it go under the clouds to light them? Because that's a Coriolis claim you just didn't realise because you're stupid.
Can we get back to the sun shining on the clouds, or
what, your Coriolis claim of it turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour? Well, that would mean we turned underneath helicopters, Ed. And yesterday you only told us that that wouldn't happen and we wouldn't see drift. Why are you now telling us that we're seeing the sun drift because we turn underneath it? And yet yesterday you spent a solid hour justifying no drift. There's a contradiction. Are we turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, Ed?
I don't care why the sun...
Oh, you don't care? I do. There's a claim Earth spins. We're supposed to turn underneath the sun at 15 degrees an hour. And under bullets, and under footballs, and under drones, and under helicopters, and under planes. But that would shorten flight times, and it would mean drones drifted away at 1,000 miles an hour, Ed. We're not turning underneath the sun at 15 degrees an hour. To have this nonsense assertion that we've turned, and therefore the sun's underneath the clouds, that's 15 degrees an hour Coriolis deviation. You just didn't realise that it's the same argument as yesterday, that you claim we don't have drift. You were here justifying no 15 degrees an hour, Ed. Hello?
The sun shining on the clouds has nothing to do with the Earth turning, actually.
No, you're right. Welcome to Flat Earth. Earth is not turning, ladies and gentlemen. And Ed, the globe believer, has just made it absolutely plain for you. The sun moving has absolutely nothing to do with Earth turning. Thank you very much, Ed. Welcome to Flat Earth.
So, why are you muting me, Nathan? Why are you running away from this topic?
You just told us.
Presented a man-made demonstration.
You just
you're funny muting me already? You're not even letting me finish one sentence? Incredible.
Your tactics are garbage.
Who said you can't have a man-made demonstration anyway?
So he doesn't show any evidence of it happening in nature. So
you've just declared, Ed, that the sun's movement has nothing to do with Earth turning underneath. That's what you've just said. Welcome to Flat Earth.
Argument has nothing to do with it.
It's Coriolis argument. You just didn't realise I've pummeled it. So you just made it clear to my audience that the sun's movement has nothing to do with Earth turn. I completely agree with your last statement you're now running away from. You said it's nothing to do with Earth turn. We're in agreement at last, Ed.
That's not what I said.
I'll have to trim it out and play it back for the lying bastard. That is precisely what you said. Well, you fundy mute me laughing at you. Yeah, Ed, you told us explicitly that it had nothing to do with Earth turning underneath, and that's the claim that's supposed to be the sun moving. It's supposed to be Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. It's a Coriolis claim, Ed. You just didn't realise. And then not realising that it was a Coriolis claim, you declared that it's not anything to do with Earth turning.
I said the sun shining on the clouds has nothing to do with it. So
Nothing
you're
to do with what?
strawmanning me.
Nothing to do with
and
what, Ed?
It's not working.
Nothing to do with what? Earth turning?
You're funny muting me.
No, I'm asking.
You're strawmanning me.
No,
Nathan.
I'm asking. Nothing to do with what? You said it. What's it? Be specific, Ed.
I
That'll
said
be
the
Earth
sun
turning, right?
shining on the clouds. The argument of the sun shining on the clouds has nothing to do with the topic of Earth turning.
Thank you very much. He's repeated it again. Ed declares for my public audience that Earth turn has nothing to do with the sun being positionally in a way that can shine underneath. Nothing to do with Earth having turned to move the relative position of the sun so it can shine underneath. I agree, Ed. Second time you've said it. This is nothing to do with Earth turning. That sun being under the clouds in a position where we've turned to put the sun in a position to shine underneath, as per the heliocentric claim that we have 15 degrees an hour of Earth turn that makes it look like the sun's moving when it's us turning underneath. That is absolutely a claim that the globe Earth makes. You guys think we turn underneath. Ed here, like all you globe-believing idiots, doesn't realise when he's making a Coriolis assertion and will overtly tell us that the claim he's got that the sun shining under the clouds proves the sphere Earth is nothing to do with Earth turning. Yeah, Ed, in your religion you think Earth turns at 15 degrees an hour underneath stuff. That includes the sun. That includes bullets and balls, but it would also include drones and helicopters and hot air balloons and aeroplanes, and it would shorten flight times when travelling west. A flight from Charlotte, North Carolina, instead of taking 4.5 hours when travelling to LA, would take an hour and a half because you've got 15 degrees an hour of the Earth turning underneath the plane. That simply does not happen. Big shout out to Jamal's24. He says, Ed is wasting your time. He doesn't know his own rhetoric. That's right. He didn't realise that when he was claiming sun shines under clouds in the heliocentric model, that's because their claim is Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, shock horror. But he didn't think it was anything to do with Earth turn. That's just a simple fact that they don't know their own rhetoric and they don't know when they're claiming Coriolis effect. Like Simon Dan, who will come along and tell you you and your reference frames are ruined. And the only people claiming them are fundamentalist religious zealots who believe they're on a turning Earth with the Earth turning underneath, stuff not attached to 15 degrees an hour. It doesn't. A drone would fly away at 1,000 miles an hour on the equator if that was the case. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
For 3 more minutes. That's really clever, Nathan. Really sneaky. But just to make it clear, I said they are 2 different topics. So
Blaster, please
you
repeat your
strawman
question
me,
again.
Okay.
and then
okay,
you
I'm trying.
quickly
Ed,
ended the show.
Ed,
Yeah, they are
Ed,
two
be
different
quiet.
subjects. Yeah, they are.
Ed,
Hold
how
on,
can you
Blastoid.
expect to have a sunset without a spinning Earth? It's impossible.
Yeah, he doesn't realise his own rhetoric, his claim of a Coriolis deviation as Earth turns underneath, and he's just declared for a third time that they're two different subjects. He doesn't realise still that they are totally the same subject. It's a claim that Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees now. It's just stupid. They don't know what Coriolis effect is.
I have a
I
question.
guess Rumpus ain't helping
You
him
don't
today.
know what it is.
No, I understand Coriolis deviation. It's a claim that you would see something drifting from a roundabout as you turn underneath it. That's Coriolis deflection. It's claimed Earth is the roundabout and that things we see not attached drift away at 15 degrees an hour because it's claimed we're turning underneath. So in the case of a helicopter, it takes off, hovers, and it's claimed we turn underneath 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. So the helicopter vanishes into the distance at 1,000 miles an hour, not because it's moving, because we're moving underneath. That's the claim Earth has, but that would involve helicopters drifting away at 1,000 miles an hour, and they don't. It also includes a claim that the sun moves because we're turning underneath it. It is absolutely the same subject, but you are so thick that you don't even know when you're making a claim of Coriolis. You're thick.
No, the sun shining on the clouds is a different topic. and you're-
Oh, really? So it's moved to that position under the clouds, not because Earth's turned underneath, but because the sun's moved. So it's actually the sun moving, Ed. It's nothing to do with Earth turn. Thank you. Yes, we agree. We agree. Nothing to do with Earth turn. Thank you, Ed. We agree. Fourth time you've said it. Movement of the sun,
No,
nothing to
they're
do
just
with
different
Earth turn,
topics.
according to Ed. We agree. Wally Fundy mutes me.
No, you funny mute me.
No, you Fundy mute me. The difference is I've got the winning argument, Ed. You've got nothing. Other than to assert what?
Clever what you did, Nathan.
What clever what? Pummeling your argument? This is Coriolis drift. The sun seeming to move because we turn underneath it, that's Coriolis. You're saying it's a different subject. You are thick as shit.
No, I'm just pointing out you're running away from your man-made presentation.
I got
Man-made
a question about this
presentation.
man-made apparatus.
What the
I have a
fuck are you
question about
talking
this.
about? This claim you make with Earth turning underneath to shine under clouds is a Coriolis claim. You dumb fuck. How many times have I got to say that, you stupid idiot?
The sun shining on the clouds is a different topic.
No, it's claimed that's caused by Earth turning at 15 degrees an hour. You don't know your own bloody religion. The reality is Earth doesn't turn underneath anything at 15 degrees an hour. If it did, helicopters would drift away from you at 1,000 miles at the equator, and they don't. But you're never going to concede that. You're going to tell me that this claim that Earth is shining underneath clouds has nothing to do with Earth turn. When in your religion, it's got everything to do with Earth turn. It just doesn't happen that way. Earth isn't turning underneath the sun at 15 degrees an hour. We're not turning.
Can I quickly talk to Ed?
Yeah, since you're running away from me so hard,
time.
let's go
You
back to
can ask him, then I'm
Coriolis.
gonna
What's
kick
the
him out.
definition?
You're gonna,
What's
you can
the
ask him,
definition of
Blastoid,
Coriolis?
if he'll ever shut up, which he probably won't.
Okay,
Yes, you can ask him.
okay,
What's the
Blastoid.
definition of
Okay,
Coriolis?
Ed, can I talk to you quickly? It's about trying to explain to you how your religion actually works, but yeah. Anyway, according to you, does your sun move or your Earth?
Irrelevant.
Oh, it's just the fucking point we've nailed you on. Yeah?
You're
saying it's nothing to do with the point. And it's absolutely relevant. It's just where you die.
So Ed,
No,
does your
it's
sun
where
move
you
or
run
your
away
Earth
from
move?
your man-made presentation of the sun.
Ed, does your sun move or your Earth? It's a simple question.
It's irrelevant.
No, it's not. I'm going to kick him out.
Yeah,
So he's
just
saying it's
wasting
not
our
relevant.
time.
It's absolutely the demolition of his claim, because it's claimed in his rhetoric Earth turns underneath the sun at 15 degrees an hour, like it's supposed to turn under helicopters at 15 degrees an hour. Second reference frame. And he's saying it's irrelevant. What an absolute outrage. You mean you've lost, Ed?
What's the definition of...
You've lost, you coward. You're getting pummeled by flat earthers. You're saying your claim that Earth turns under the sun is irrelevant? What a coward, running away from your own claims.
What's the definition
If
of
you want the
Hours,
definition,
please?
I gave him a definition in Skype for him. Nathan?
No,
asking for
Nathan,
definition
please.
of Coriolis.
Read it to
For
me
definition
again.
of Coriolis.
Like you did
It's been on
yesterday,
screen,
please.
Ed. For my audience, while you're asking with this obfuscation tactic, it's on screen. It very specifically says Earth is turning beneath it. It's describing things not attached to Earth. That's the definition that you have of Earth turning underneath the sun, bullets, balls, helicopters, drones, hot air balloons and aeroplanes. Shortening flight times, which doesn't happen. Having drones drift away from you at 1,000 miles an hour, which doesn't happen. Having you turn underneath a helicopter, which doesn't happen. So we're supposed to turn underneath stuff. That's the definition. Like yesterday, it's on screen for my audience. Irrelevant. You claim Earth turns underneath the sun. It just doesn't, Ed. And when we nail the fact that Earth isn't turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour and ask you if it's Earth turn or sun movement, you say irrelevant. I say you've died here, mate.
Please read the definition of Coriolis now.
The object is not actually moving off its course. It only appears to be doing so because the Earth, I'm going to add in parentheses, is claimed to be turning beneath it. So it's claimed Earth is turning beneath these things not attached, Ed. Like a roundabout with you looking at something that's not attached, not on the roundabout. It's claimed that we're on a roundabout with a spinning Earth and that the sun moves because we turn beneath it. That's what you claim. And when we pin you on that, you say it's irrelevant. Why? Because we've pointed out that this is a Coriolis claim you're denying. Denying your own rhetoric and debunking it. Apparently, according to you, Ed, you said it 3 times. Earth turn's got nothing to do with the sun moving under the clouds. So you're debunking Earth turn, Ed, like Simon Dan. Kudos. Maybe ask me a question. Maybe tell me I'm running away from a man-made device that I've used for your claim that Earth turns at 15 degrees an hour to move the sun under clouds. Maybe tell me it's a man-made device I'm running away from when we point out that when asked if it's sun movement or Earth movement, your answer is that it's irrelevant. Actually where you've been pummeled.
Maybe he should go learn about the heliocentric model a little more.
Yeah. Why don't you go and learn what you think actually causes the movement of the sun? You stupid idiot. Why are we having to educate you when you're the globe-believing retard? Why are we having to tell you that, yeah, absolutely you claim that the sun's moving under the clouds because it's turning underneath it at 15 degrees an hour? You think Earth's turning underneath, you stupid idiot. It's just not. Because helicopters would fly away at 1,000 miles an hour. Not because they've got massive engines and they can fly 1,000 miles an hour. They can't. But it's claimed that we drift away from them at 1,000 miles an hour as we turn underneath. Same as this sun claim, Ed, that you're running away from, saying it's irrelevant because you're a coward. Is it irrelevant or just where you die, Ed?
So the definition of Coriolis you said was that things appear to be moving off their course. If the helicopter is hovering above you, what's the course of that?
That would be the sun, Ed. That would be the sun moving.
He talked about the helicopter again.
We talked about the sun for about 20 straight minutes. Now what? You've been asked if it's the sun movement or Earth movement? Given that you've denied it's Earth movement 3 straight times, you're going to tell us it's irrelevant, Ed? No, it's claimed by your side that Earth turns underneath stuff, including the sun. You're going to deny it for a 4th time? Maybe say it's irrelevant, you coward. Run away from it, you coward. Say it's irrelevant. Maybe tell me to ask a different question. Is it the sun moving, Ed, or is it Earth claimed to turn underneath? And that would shorten flight times. 15 degrees an hour drift, right? Earth's turning underneath the sun, Ed? 15 degrees an hour, Ed? Irrelevant, Ed, or are you just a coward?
The sun shining on the clouds is a different topic.
Different topic to what?
Earth turning or not.
Oh, so when we have a claim that Earth is in a position where it's turned around, you guys say that the sun is underneath the clouds now. You're saying that that's not the case, Ed? Welcome to Flat Earth.
What do you mean?
I mean, you're telling us it's nothing to do with Earth turn. This claim that the sun is underneath these clouds, shining underneath them, you're saying that's not Earth turn. And again, 4th time, Ed, we are in agreement. No, Ed, it's definitely not Earth turning at 15 degrees an hour underneath. Coriolis deviation. No. Definitely not Coriolis drift, Ed. You were making it explicitly clear yesterday that we don't have that drift. There is no deviation. No drift. Earth's not
I
turning.
never said the Earth doesn't spin.
I'm curious.
I never
Ed.
said the Earth doesn't
How
spin.
how do you think the sun got in that position, Ed?
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
curious.
like to know that. How did the sun get under the clouds then, Ed?
Irrelevant.
Really? Just not the fact that you claim it's 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath the sun? Yeah, that's because Simon Dan's brought this deviation to a head. And we're absolutely killing it day after day, thanks to Simon Dan. We've got you absolutely cornered. You can't claim that it's not Earth turning underneath. And when we point out that, well, is it the sun moving then, Ed? Apparently that's irrelevant. No, it's just where your argument dies, Ed. Earth's not turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. It's total lies. Earth's not turning. Maybe tell us about how you beg the question of Earth turn. Tell us how you don't get drift, don't get 15 degrees an hour, but still assume it's turning. Tell us about how you assume it's turning as a fundy religious hard. Go on, Ed. Tell us how we don't have drift as Earth turns underneath, but you still assume it. Go on. Good
Yeah,
doggy.
right. So let me speak then,
Good
Mr.
doggy.
Rand.
Beg the question for us,
So-
good dog. Tell us how you assume it spins.
No.
Good dog.
Don't fundy mute me,
I
Nathan.
do what the fuck I like. It's my show. I'll call you a prick. I'll point out where you've lost. I'll do whatever I choose on my show. When I'm dealing with fundamentalist religious zealots, you all deserve a verbal tongue lashing, and you're going to damn well get one. You won't admit that it's your claim that Earth turns under the sun. Apparently it's irrelevant. So according to Ed, whether or not we turn under the sun is, quote, irrelevant. But it's not proving we spin then, is it, Ed? We get told that sunsets prove the Earth spinning. Yet according to you, it's irrelevant. I'll be sure to point them in your direction when they tell us that sunsets are caused by a turning Earth, that it's actually irrelevant. Because if it was relevant, we'd be turning under helicopters too. But when we point that out, somehow it becomes irrelevant to your side. No, it's supposed to prove we spin, Ed. It just doesn't happen. No 15 degrees drift. Tell me how irrelevant it is again. Good dog.
I put something in Master B
The
that actually
topic
tells
of
him about
the
the sunsets.
sun shining on the clouds is a different topic. Yes.
I actually put something in Master B. You can put it up for him.
Ed, it all has to do
How
with
did
Earth
how did the
turn,
sun
Ed.
get in that position to shine under the clouds? It's obviously not doing that all the time, right? And you're asking about that in particular. So how did you think the sun got in that position, Ed?
It has nothing to do with what I
Go ahead,
asked.
say irrelevant.
Make demonstration.
He says it's got nothing to do with it. That's good. So nothing to do with it, Ed. Excellent. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you for the 5th straight time. So yeah, we agree, Ed. Earth turn has got nothing to do with sun movement. For any of you fundies who think that sunsets have got something to do with an Earth that turns, it's irrelevant. Nothing to do with Earth turning. It's a different subject altogether. Not Earth turn, not 15 degrees an hour deviation, not Coriolis. We agree with Ed. Definitely not Earth turning.
No,
Yeah,
I
yes, it
just said
changes
they're
icon
different
to flat
topics.
earth.
You're
Yeah, you're saying they're different topics. You're saying the sun's movement is not a topic to do with Earth turn. And we agree, Ed. Yeah, the sun's movement's sod all to do with Earth turn. That's a different fundamentalist religious zealot subject. We agree. 6 times we've agreed with you, Ed.
I never said they're not related.
That's exactly what you just said only 30 seconds ago. Maybe realise how fucked you are, how cornered you are, and deny the thing you've said only 30 seconds ago.
No.
You want
I
to
never said
define
the Earth doesn't
irrelevant?
spin. You're not listening, actually.
No, I'm not listening. Oh, that's what's actually happening. It's not that when the devastating point comes, Ed talks through every word of it, so he doesn't have to listen to it. It's actually me not listening. The irrelevancy of Earth turn to the movement of the sun that Ed has declared. It's irrelevant, right, Ed? Nothing to do with it. Different subject to Earth turn. Say it again. Give us it a 6th time, Ed. Tell us how irrelevant Earth turn is to the sun's movement. Given that it's a Coriolis claim you just didn't realise you'd made and we've humiliated you for it. Maybe tell us that we don't understand or aren't listening while you talk through me. Go, good dog. Go.
Well, when you talked about Coriolis, you specifically said objects appear to be moving off their course, and then you talked about drones and helicopters. Are they moving? Are they having a course in your example?
Yeah. Do you want to know what the course is? That they would appear to move off if Earth was turning underneath? The course is
No,
as
no,
follows.
no, no,
Fundy
no.
mute,
They
fundy
need
mute,
to have
fundy
a
mute, fundy mute,
course.
fundy mute, fundy
You're
mute,
not
fundy mute, fundy
answering my
mute, fundy
question,
mute,
Nathan.
fundy mute, fundy mute.
Yeah, you can
Yeah, fundy
scream
mute, fundy mute, fundy mute,
I don't
fundy mute,
care.
fundy mute, fundy mute,
You're
fundy mute,
straw
fundy mute,
manning.
fundy mute,
You're
fundy
not
mute,
listening.
non-stop
Wow.
fundy muting,
Are you that
zealotry,
bad?
zealotry,
Are you
fundy,
that
fundy,
bad
fundy.
that I'm catching
Yeah, you gonna
up
let me
to
answer, you fundy
changing my
cocksucker?
question.
Hello, fundy. You gonna let me answer,
you're
you
changing
cocksucking
my
fundy?
question.
Yeah,
And
cocksucking
you
fundy.
know
He's got a religion that's
I
dying.
caught you.
No choice but to put you on mute, have I, Ed? Because you haven't let me answer. You immediately fundy muted me.
Right. You know I caught you, Nathan.
Caught you
tried
what?
to
You haven't.
change
You
your
asked me a question
question.
and didn't let me answer.
Right.
Yeah, right. You're getting absolutely annihilated. There's a claim that Earth turns underneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour on 6 consecutive occasions. You've told me it's an unrelated subject. That would be unrelated to Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. You have debunked Earth turning underneath as an unrelated, irrelevant subject 6 times, Ed. You're getting absolutely owned here.
That's not what I asked. So the question was,
what's the course
in
of the
your
helicopter?
Definition of Coriolis.
Yeah, you asked me what the course of the
No,
helicopter
you're
was.
muting me.
Yeah, because you asked me what the course of the helicopter was. I tried to answer and you wouldn't let me.
No, you're funny mute. No,
you wouldn't let me answer. You asked me what the course of the
helicopter.
helicopter was.
If it's hovering above you.
Yeah, I understand the parameters, Ed. I'd just like
Where's
to
the
answer.
course?
Will I get to answer? He's asked me what the course of the helicopter was. That's the question I'm being asked. I'm not being allowed to answer. Fundy muted the entirety of the answer so far. Let's try again. The course of the helicopter is as follows, Ed. It's planned course. It's going to take off, go 30 feet in the air, because it's only going to move upwards. And then it's planned to directly move down again and land on the same spot it took off from. That's its planned course. Yeah, it's going to go straight up and then come straight back down on the same spot it took off from. That's its course that it's planned. And it's going to go up for an hour and then come back down again. That's its course, Ed. Now, according to the definition of Coriolis, if Earth's turning beneath it, it will deviate from that planned course. In other words, it won't land where it took off from. Not because it has moved to a different location. It's only going to go up and down. That's its planned course. But the claim that Earth spins underneath it has it landing somewhere else, Ed. So it's supposed to land in a completely different spot because it's drifted from the Earth turning underneath it, Ed. Now, that doesn't happen,
Wow.
Ed. Helicopters can go up, hover, and land on the same spot they went up from. They don't seem to deviate from their planned course. They can go up, hover, and come back down. You can do it with a drone for yourself, Ed. But they don't drift at 15 degrees an hour. They don't seem to disappear from your view at 15 degrees an hour, Ed. It's claimed that Earth's supposed to turn underneath them to give an apparent deflection at 15 degrees an hour. In other words, it won't land where it took off from. That'll be somewhere else. A different continent altogether 15 degrees away on a globe. That doesn't happen though, Ed. So a helicopter can go up and land on the same spot. That's its planned course, and it can commit to it.
Yeah, you said
and
that
do
5 times.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it as many fucking times as I like. So why isn't Earth turning
Not
under the
answering my
drone or
question.
helicopter? Why isn't Earth turning under the drone or helicopter at 15 degrees an hour, Ed? Same question as yesterday. Earth isn't doing what it's supposed to if it's spinning. That's drifting underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Why isn't that
You
happening?
didn't answer my question.
Yeah, I did.
Yes, he did that.
Yeah, I did. I absolutely asked you a question. What's its planned course? Its course is up and then down to the same place. And according to the rhetoric of a globe Earth that spins...
It's finished yet. You're fundy muting me, Nathan.
You're fundy muting
Let
me
me
right
finish
now.
the question.
No, you're fundy muting me.
No.
Yeah, no. Is you fundy muting me. Saying Earth should turn underneath this helicopter. Its planned course, you've asked me about and I've answered. Going up and coming down again. It's supposed to be landing on the same spot. But Earth turning underneath would mean it doesn't. And it does.
So my question was, what course does the helicopter
I answered
have?
him. I'm going to kick him out.
while
You just
it's
answered your
hovering
fucking
above?
question, Ed. Are you out of your mind?
That's it. I'm kicking him out.
Serious?
I'm kicking him out. He's being a total bastard like yesterday. I answer his question and he's not going to accept it. He's going to ask the same question 6 or 7 more times when I've answered him. What's the course? It's going up 30 feet, hovering, coming down again. According to a claim that globe Earth spins underneath, it should spin underneath and doesn't. That's it. So what, 15 more hours of this crap from him? Asking me what deviation is? Well, us spinning away from it, but we don't.
He thinks because you don't have a course going forward or backwards that he's got the victory.
I have. I've got it going up and down. That's the course. I answered him. He just didn't know what the fuck to do. So he asked the same question about 6 more times.
Yeah, he knows
He's
because
never going to concede.
he's saying this because he knows because he's saying this. There's no drift, so he just has to play down.
When he's caught out and he's wrong, he won't concede. All he's going to do is cause you to be angry. He's not worth that.
Time for him to go, I say.
Yeah, that's why I kicked him out. At the point that he says you
And
haven't
then he'll ask
explained...
you another question.
Okay, here we go.
Can
I ask my question?
Hold on, Rams. Go ahead, Rams.
Oh, he'll just redirect with another question. That's what he tends to do all the time.
Meanwhile,
All
while
of these guys do it.
stating the factors of the very question that he is proposing is irrelevant.
Yeah.
The very factor he's asking us, why is the sun shining where it is, right underneath these clouds? We're asking, well, how did the sun get in that position? Oh, it's irrelevant. Oh, really?
You don't want to answer that.
It's irrelevant. Well, that's the whole point of your question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's irrelevant because he needs Earth to turn underneath it at 15 degrees an hour. And again, thanks to Simon Dan, it's come to a head.
Oh.
Paul, what's your question?
Second of all, I've taken pictures from New York City at 8:15 where the sun is set, and you have the clouds lit from the top for me and for Australia at the same time. So, how does that work?
Right on. Oh, thank you. Taking to mummy in the kitchen.
Okay, just one thing about this man-made apparatus to Ed or any of the Globers. Does this man-made apparatus have to obey physical and natural law?
No. The phenomena in science would be the thing, but he's decided to throw out anything that's had a claim made with a man-made piece of apparatus as a demonstration, with a light above a source and shining light underneath clouds, even though the light source is above it. That's been demonstrated, but because we debunk their bullshit pseudoscience claims and not having phenomena but a man-made apparatus as a substitute for a phenomena, he's taken that argument and used it against us for a demonstration that's not claiming to be science, not claiming to be a substitute for a natural phenomena, merely a demonstration that debunks his assertion that it's only possible if Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour to move the sun into a position under the clouds. That's his claim, that is apparently irrelevant unless we state it back to him.
Well, just to be clear, Nathan, I mean, if it's something in the physical world, it's made, even if it's man-made, if there's refraction involved, it has to obey refraction law or whatever, how refraction works. All those factors have to be in play. Even though it's a man-made apparatus, it still has to conform to the physical world. So even if it's a smaller man-made thing, it still has to obey it. So those, even though we may be manipulating it. Go ahead.
I think the only reason he even brought up that it's man-made is trying to convolute that we're basically saying it's science, which no one is, right? Nobody's saying this is science, but he wants to convolute it with that. So he says, oh, you have a man-made contraption and you're showing a demonstration of something.
Well, but see, that's the thing. If it's obeying the physical laws in the world and we can demonstrate it using the physical laws of the world, then it's possible. That's my whole point.
I thought the only thing in nature had to be what you like if you observe a natural phenomena.
Yes.
I thought that was the only thing that had to be in nature, not a experiment.
The whole point.
Correct.
Yeah, the whole point is nobody called that an experiment.
No, it's a demonstration. Merely a demonstration. If I say balls bounce when you drop them and I drop them, even if I'm not necessarily asserting that it's analogous to a gas going down, go boom, boom. Nevertheless, if I drop a ball and say it will bounce because it's a bouncy ball, and then I show you it dropping and bouncing, that's not an experiment. That's a demonstration. No claim of science at all. Now, if we say we can get light to go underneath something, even if the light source is above it, and then we show it being done, his rebuttal is, that's man-made. Yeah, and? So what? Who cares? Now, when it
I
comes
wish
to
they could show us orbits in a small scale.
no, they can't do that, Neil.
I know.
Well, all experiments would have to be technically man-made, but
Yeah,
again,
experiment.
if you're trying to prove the phenomenon, huh?
Yeah, the experimental apparatus is man-made.
Right. So even this video, I've not seen the video, but I can imagine what it's like. It's technically a man-made thing. The camera's man-made. You know, he's actually manipulating whatever he's doing in the video. It's all man-made apparatus, but he's trying to show how something could operate in the physical world. But even the apparatus itself still has to. I keep saying it mainly because it's important. It still has to obey the physical laws of the world. You know, like it has to follow. You know how light works. It has to follow how light works in the physical world.
No, none of this is relevant to the method of science, and you're trying to convolute in a demonstration with an application of the scientific method. It's like, well, some of this stuff is actually natural, but you don't have to justify any of that. Nobody's claiming it as an experiment. You don't have to justify the fact that it's man-made or not. It's irrelevant. It's only crucial when you're describing something that happens in nature and you want to explain it. Well, if that thing that is quote-unquote happening in nature is actually happening because a man made it happen, then there's your cause. That's why you don't do experiments on things that are man-made, because you know the cause already, a man made it. But if something's occurring in nature and you're adhering to the method and you try and induce the effect with apparatus that is man-made, you're still trying to figure out the cause of the natural phenomena that occurred in nature. So, man-made or not, who cares, even in an experiment, so long as the phenomena's not man-made. Now, this isn't a man-made experiment or a phenomena that's been conjured. It's merely a demonstration. Somebody shining a light and saying, here you go, light's above it, and underneath this board, which is analogous to the clouds, it's shining under them. The light's above it, but yet the light is shining upwards towards the bottom of this board. That's not science! Just a demo! Doesn't matter the criteria for what it's made out of. It could be made out of bloody plutonium for all I give a crap. It's just a demonstration. Now, that demonstration debunks the assertion, when held up in false dichotomy, that it's either not possible on a flat plane, as is per its assertion, and therefore in false dichotomy, the globe model with Earth turning under the sun at 15 degrees now is the explanation for the light under the clouds. But when we say, well, what is your genuine thoughts on why the sun is in that position, as Chocolate asked him? Answer, irrelevant. Not irrelevant, just a claim of Coriolis drift. 15 degrees an hour, Earth turning underneath. Something that they're all running scared of thanks to Simon Dan.
The sad thing is he's going to claim victory.
60 seconds? Could I have 60 seconds on this?
Sure.
Not only they are convoluting scientific method with physical demonstration, and they're trying to use what we would say back to them about man-made. Like when they say what causes this, and it's just purely it's man, because there's a man-made object that causes it. Right, they're convoluting that with the use of a man-made object within a scientific experiment. But there's more than that. What they're actually doing is they're trying to hand-wave away our physical demonstrations, because they don't have any. Can anyone show me their physical demonstration of that actual claim of the light shining on the clouds underneath? They never came up with a physical demonstration for that. They only asserted an explanation and said, how do you explain that on your model? We don't have. And then Chris Berry shows them 3 different videos, 3 different physical demonstrations. So not only do we have an explanation and a real world explanation, we also have 3 physical demonstrations. They don't have any of that. And this is the same thing for 5 years. They never have physical demonstrations. They only have explanation.
Yes, absolutely.
Correct. Exactly.
That is indeed. Neil, do you want to get the last word in?
Chime in.
Or 10th man, then Neil. Or Neil, then 10th man, rather.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just go. So Ed came in with sun shining on the bottom of clouds could never happen on the flat Earth. That was his intro to the whole talk today. So then you're saying it only happens on the rotating Earth, because obviously that's the opposite view. Then it should turn underneath airplanes, drones, and helicopters too, but it doesn't. It's amazing how he just killed himself.
No, I was just going to say the sad
It's
thing
that
is.
I told.
Hold on,
Remember,
Chocolate.
I told you.
Hold on.
Sorry,
Neil's
Neil,
been
go
trying to
ahead.
get this word in for about the last 10 straight minutes. Go on, Neil.
No, I was just going to say the sad thing is he's going to walk away and claim victory that he had you cornered.
Yeah, they're delusional. Go ahead, Chocolate. You can get the last word in.
I was just going to say that, but that's the diversionary tactic right there, right? He's clearly got a demonstration of what his question is, right? The lights shining underneath the clouds, right? He's got a clear demonstration of it provided by a flat earther. Now, he's going to say that that's man-made and that's no good, and then ask us, how does this happen on the flat plane? While throwing out the demonstration of how it can happen on the flat plane. Meanwhile, he didn't bring in a demonstration of how this could happen on a globe, right? And in the middle of that, asking him, well, how do you feel that the sun got into that position in the first place? Relating that to the other argument. And what he says, it's irrelevant. It's amazing.
We'll have a quick play of...
You and your reference frames have been ruined. You and your reference frames have been ruined. Your reference frames have been ruined. Your reference frame. Your reference frame. Your reference frame. Been ruined. Been ruined. You and your reference frames have been ruined. And there was a little video. Frames have been ruined. Frames have been ruined. You and your reference frames have been ruined. And
with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!